Song Revolution with John Chisholm.
Hey everybody, welcome to Song Revolution again. I am so blessed that you're here, and I hope that you're getting a ton out of the second season. We've got so many great guests lined up for you, and today is going to be especially good if you're wanting to get your music recorded and out where your listeners are waiting for you. My guest is Joe Wadsworth. He's the founder and chief executive producer of OnlineRecordingStudio.com in the UK. OnlineRecordingStudio.com is a one-stop shop if you're looking to bring your songs to life and unleash the power of your music. And Joe has a brilliant vision for helping you do just that, to reach the goal of getting your music out to the world. He and I have been getting to know each other over the last year or so, and we finally put together an affiliate offer just for you. He's offering 10% off your first order if you'll use the code NCS2022, and I think that's a fantastic deal. OnlineRecordingStudio.com is an a la carte kind of site where you can get drums and bass, guitar, keyboard tracks, and anything else you want in a kind of mix and match way to put together demos and even master recordings for your songs. But just pay only for what you need. It's really cool. And they're stretching out into some other as needed services that will help you become a full-on indie singer-songwriter, worship leader, or artist. This is a very encouraging conversation with Joe, and I know that you're going to love his heart to equip creators just like you. He drops some great value on this show about how to have a holistic approach to your music and how cohesion across all the elements of your music is just so key to success these days. So don't forget to cash in your discount for your first order by using the code NCS2022. And I know you're going to get so much out of this episode with the founder and chief executive producer of OnlineRecordingStudio.com and my new best friend, Joe Wadsworth. All right, Joe Wadsworth, all the way from UK, somewhere today in an undisclosed location out in the English countryside. Welcome to Song Revolution, man.
Thank you for having me, John. Yes, very, very secretive in the middle of...
Yeah. Are you in an underground vault somewhere?
I'm in a bunker here, just with, with my recording equipment. And yeah, I can't tell exactly where.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, we've been getting to know each other over the last year or so as we've been talking about working together, because we have just some great opportunities. You're working with OnlineRecordingStudio.com. I work with a lot of songwriters who need demos and master work. So it's a great partnership. And so it's exciting to introduce you to our audience today and to connect them into the kind of resources. So why don't you go back to kind of the beginning of this, how long you've had OnlineRecordingStudio.com, where you got the idea. Just kind of take us back to the beginning, bro.
Okay, so we've been going in the online recording studio for about 6 years now. And really what we started as was just a service where you could easily record with a decent producer online. We would take care of the instrumentation in our studios. We'd work over Zoom or video calls. You'd record your vocals at home. We'd mix and master everything on our end. Really sort of simple thing like that. And actually, when it first started, I was doing all the production myself out of my dorm room at university in Leeds in the north of England.
No kidding. That's awesome. Now, were you studying, sorry to interrupt, but were you studying music or production?
Yeah, so I was studying music production. And the thing is, I found that very, very quickly in doing that course, I just felt like the course itself wasn't really for me. And also, I think partly it was down to the fact that for a music production course, if you're trying to have, there were 500 people in my year, all of whom were different types of producers, different genres, very, very different styles, very different kinds of people. And trying a course that fits all of those people in means that either you're having to generalize massively in terms of the course, or you're having to specialize in the wrong areas. And so at least half of it is going to be not suitable for you, because I'd be in a group with an electronic producer making like avant-garde, electronica, crazy jazz.
Yeah, right.
And also some guy who's doing like death metal, and I'm there just sort of trying to work out what exactly, more sort of commercial pop music, I suppose, was sort of where I was leaning towards. And so it was really, really tricky to kind of feel like we were making good progress. And I think with anything with music related, as you'll well know, you just got to sort of do it. It's not like you can learn the theories, but really you learn best by just doing it, picking up little bits where you can, but just getting in those, I guess those 10,000 hours is sort of the number that they always chuck in.
Right.
And so with these frustrations at the course I was doing, I thought, well, I already know I want to do this. So I started talking to some people on Instagram. I was very new to Instagram at that point and hadn't really used it personally. And saw that all the artists in my year and in my dorm rooms, we were in a big building where it was all people who were all doing music. Everyone was posting on Instagram. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll have a look on here. And then I looked and did some digging and some research on Instagram and saw that. And granted, this was 2000 and was it 2014, 2015? I was sort of looking at this.
Man, that was a whole lifetime ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
2014 seems like the dark ages.
Exactly. And but then, Instagram wasn't as like crazy saturated with everyone selling in the same way as it is now. And so yeah, so what I tried to do was do a bit of research into artists, and I had a look at how many artists every day were posting their songs and posting snippets of
Mm,
original music, and I was just thinking,
right.
this is crazy. There's so many people here who want to have their music produced and want to have their music heard. And it felt like there was a real disconnect between all of those people posting about songs that they wanted to do and all of the people that I was, even just on my one course, all these people who desperately wanted to work with artists who are really good producers, but perhaps had no way and no idea how to get in front of those artists. And so
Right. Brilliant.
so I started doing it myself and saying to artists like, "Hey, I'll charge you like, £50 or £100 or something, and I'll do the song. I'll play the guitar and I'll program drums and bass and play the keys myself. I'll do it all in my room." I was very upfront about the fact that I was a student when I was doing it, and I was like, "Look, this is why I'll do it for these rates. I'm trying to build up a portfolio." And very quickly, I'd done a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen songs,
Mm,
all of which people were happy to pay for, and I just thought, this is why would I not just keep doing this? This is what I want to do as a career. So why would I not just carry on doing this? What am I actually getting from my course?
right. Yeah.
And so I then started like pulling in other producers from my course and in the sort of dorms around me. And then very quickly it turned into this thing where there were like a few different producers who were on my course who I would like outsource some of these tracks to. And it was a really cool thing because in my room at university, I could say I needed like a trumpet player. I could post something on the message board of our university building and say, "Hey, I need a trumpet player, like to come and record a solo." And it was, 2 o'clock in the morning. I say, "I've got a
Yeah.
few beers and I've got some pizza down here. Come down and we'll have a little jam and we'll record you. And it's for this artist who's in, Los Angeles or
It's
Sydney."
brilliant. Yeah.
And they'd come down and record. And then it just became this nice little sort of, nice little project that was meaning everyone was getting a chance to work with people on both sides. Artists were getting producers, producers were getting artists. And it just worked really well. And then I thought, actually, this is so simple. I'll just do this. So I
Yeah.
left university at the end of that first year. We changed the name. We were called My First Single to begin with because we were just working with like beginner artists. And so the My First Single thing was just because it was their first song. But having the word single in there caused a bit of confusion. And after having to explain that the
Yeah.
single in the title had nothing to do with there being any sort of dating elements to the service,
Yeah.
I changed the name.
I get my first single.
Yeah.
There you go.
I suppose for like
Wow.
maybe recently or people who'd never been single before or something, I don't know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. So, like you and Zuckerberg, man, starting in university and just coming up with an idea, you know? So, you guys are like the internet crews here that are connecting the world. That's fantastic. It's so brilliant how that happened, man.
well, thank you.
So organically for you.
Yeah, and I think then we then just thought, right, we need to grow the company up a little bit so that we can be really delivering a service. And so I took a kind of a step back from the direct production in studio, and we brought on people who are much, much more experienced and, brought on really serious producers who'd been working for 10, 20 years in the industry rather than us
Right.
who were still very, very green and sort of working out how to do it. And then changed the name to the Online Recording Studio because we thought, right, it does what it says on the tin. And over the years now, we've done a few thousand tracks. We've got, tens of millions of streams across all these different artists, but we've grown into something that is more than just that production. It's it is a full service production and recording agency. We have like song development that we do with artists as well prior to take things into production, but also it's really an agency for boosting your music in any form. So we do branding and
Wow.
PR services, we do marketing services, there's coaching, strategy coaching. It really is a full service agency for any artist,
Wow.
independent artist who is wanting to
Wow.
make great music, work with a really, really experienced producer, great designers, great PR coaches, and build a career in music and find ways to
Oh my
monetize what they're doing.
gosh. Well, that is fantastic, Joe. Take us. Let's start at the beginning because my heart and soul is the song development side. I had many years. I'm 37 years into the music business. I could be your dad or your uncle. I don't think I could be your grandpa, but I could be your dad
Older
probably.
brother,
But
surely.
yeah, there you go. Older brother, much wiser and, great looking old guy. But anyway, my whole drive and where I've been has been in developing songwriters, developing songs, managing, the songwriting side of thing. And everything that we do at Nashville Christian Songwriters is about that, from our blogs and podcasts that you're now on all the way to our premium programs, and it sounds like you've got a wide range of things, but take us into where do you start when someone brings a song to you and you quickly realize, hey, this thing isn't really ready to spend the bucks on. How do you approach working with a writer like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually, it does vary from artist to artist. Some people come to us with something very, very bare bones. I mean, I would say that I think most people, because they've followed us on Instagram for a while and they've seen the kind of stuff, and more often than not, they've reached out to artists that we've worked with as well. There's a really, really nice community so that people kind of check up on how people have found the experience first. They kind of know what is needed to come to us, but so we very rarely get something in where it's like, I don't know how, we wouldn't know how to take it into production. Usually we've got at least a verse or a couple of verses and a chorus and a melody. If it's before that point, we would say, right, you really need to look at working with a coach who can sort of help you develop this into a fully fledged song. But really, if we have all we need to begin with is melody, some lyrics of at least two-thirds of the song, and then we'd have a session with you where we would talk about your influences and the kind of sound that you're wanting to go for, pull in some different reference tracks. That can be really useful, particularly for less experienced artists who maybe don't have the terminology or the experience to specifically say what kind of sound they want without needing to point at something
Right.
else. And there's no
Right.
shame in using a reference track at all. That's a really
Yeah.
useful thing to
Right.
do.
Like, if I wanna be like Dua Lipa or, Sting or name somebody, but to bring in reference tracks to say, "I wanna be in this genre. I wanna be kind of like this person, not copy them exactly, but kinda get me in the ballpark, genre, style, demographic," that type thing?
Exactly, and for some people, it can be really specific in that they can say, "Right, I want the drums to kinda sound like this on this Mark Ronson track off of this album." Or it
Mhm.
might just be, "I really like the energy of this Supertramp song," you know?
Well, I wanna be like Harry Styles.
Hey, don't
So,
we
do
all?
you think that could work out? Could I come to you and
Absolutely. I mean, really, you just need some good outfits and
oh my gosh, well, you gotta see my closet, dude.
it's so great what's happened with him, I think. He's a really good example of, like, someone who has not been limited by the fact that his beginnings were so commercial, middle of the road, so sort of processed in so many ways with the One Direction
Yeah.
stuff that now he's making this stuff that is, I think they're trying to pitch him as sort of like a Bowie, like an Elton. It's a
Yes,
really
they
subversive
are.
kind of character. It's really cool actually
Yeah.
because he's very good. He's very, very talented.
Yeah. I've been reviewing his new is it Harry's
Harry's
House? Is that
House,
the
yeah.
new one? But yeah, I've been reviewing that, and it's got some interesting sounds. I'm kind of amazed at the kind of the electronic. I mean, maybe I'm just not up on what's current, but it's the ear candy is pretty astounding, and I don't know, there's some throwback feels on there to me, but anyway, I digress. here with Harry Styles, but I've been in the last few days. So,
Yeah.
so if I so you do the reference tracks and just kinda help people get into the style
Yeah,
they're
and I
wanting.
think, to be honest, once we've had 15, 20 minutes to chat to someone, it becomes pretty clear what they're wanting. We've been doing this for long enough that we can pick up what people are trying to say
Right.
just from sort of the way they're saying stuff and what they're going for. And
And then do you pair them up with a producer that can do what they want? Is that kind of your clearinghouse for, just doing that match? You're the Tinder of
yeah,
online
in a way,
recording,
exactly.
right?
So at the moment, I really like to be able to, I know the producers in our team really well, and I know the qualities that they have and what their specialties are. And there's, the guys that we have on our team for production are astounding, and I'm envious always of their ability to make this music because I wish I could do it as
Mhm.
well as they do.
Yeah,
Um,
right?
but yeah, knowing what their strengths are and what their specialties are in terms of music, once I've had that chance to have a chat through the artist, and I always like to meet the artist myself so that I can make the best recommendations of who in our team is going to fit for them based on what their references are, the kind of sound they're going for. And also, what's really useful is to hear other songs that they've got, whether they're fully completed songs or whether they're just demos or rough voice notes or whatever. The more I know about that artist, the better positioned I am to be able to put them with someone who's going to be really suitable for them, not just for one song, but for many, many songs to come, and that they'll be able to
Mhm.
grow and develop with. Because, yeah, we could make one really good song, but actually, if that song doesn't sound anything like anything else you're ever going to do, it's not really that useful from a longevity perspective because you need
Right.
to have that cohesion across your music. So
So you're kind of playing A&R guy. You're kind of like being record company guy then, bringing artist development and some of that oversight like that?
absolutely. I mean, look, what we do at Tours, the online recording studio, we give artists access to all of the resources of a label, but without taking 75% of your music. We don't take any of your music. We don't own anything. It's a full buyout
Mm.
on what you're doing. You book for the services that you want, and we work with you. And some of those are per project. Some of those are like, monthly or yearly deals or whatever. But really, it's about taking back control from labels that were originally taking so much ownership of what you were doing. And essentially, people don't realize that getting like a £500,000 record deal is actually a £500,000 loan that you have to pay back.
It totally is, right?
It's n
Well
it's not
said.
like you've just won the lottery and got £500,000 in the bank. It's
You just went into debt
yeah,
for
like
your music.
massive, massive debt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
And sometimes that works well, if you're someone who already you've got an audience and you have a proven product, right? People are loving what you're doing and it's beginning to grow. And then, the label comes along and fans that flame and with their resources really, makes it grow exponentially, then it's kind of worth it. Like Lauren Daigle, who's a huge crossover artist, you might know Lauren's work, she was already making some noise. And then the same label, they've picked up an artist named Katie Nicole, great artist. And she had a song go viral, but on TikTok, but she's been doing this since she was 14 years old. She's like 20, 21 now, and she's had help. She's had mentoring and coaching, and a team came around her and it's exploded. But I love something that the VP of Centricity, I've got him on the show here as well, Chad Segura. He's a good friend. He's at Centricity Music. And he said, stop sending me your songs. Make as much noise as you can where you are, and I'll find you. And that's kind of how it works with the label. And yet, like you just said, man, people dream, they have this fantasy of the record executive coming over the hill in the big black limo and swooping them up and making them famous. But that's not really reality for very many people. So, anyway, back to your original point, skip the label deal. There's never been a better time to be an artist than right now. So
absolutely.
check out check out tours, man, and get what you need in more of a fair trade environment, right?
That's it, and I think that really, because there is an expectation for artists now to wear so many different hats. You've got to be your writer, producer, promoter, pitcher, PR, designer, plus
Yeah.
booking agent, all of that sort of stuff that actually it is
Yeah.
impossible to be able to do all of those things And that's what we do, is that we come in and we look at, okay, what are the goals for this artist? What is it that they're trying to achieve? Is it they're trying to monetize through sync placements? Is it that they're trying to build a fan base so that they can tour across Europe or they can tour across North America? Okay, so what are going to be the right stations to reach out to? What kind of sound do we need to look at for their music? It's it's a really, really holistic approach to them in the way that a label would. But as I say, we're not taking 75% of your music for life. We sign off everything to the artist. It belongs to them entirely. That level of
Right.
control is something that's not ever existed within the music industry before. And for
So
most people, it makes sense.
publishing and masters and everything becomes their property.
It's all their property because it should be their property.
Mm,
The model of the how the labels work hasn't really changed that much since like the 1960s, like the 1950s even. It's like not that different to how it used to be, really. And it's, for most people, that record label thing, that record deal thing, A, is probably not going to happen in a way that means it's useful for you.
mhm.
But B, it might not be the right thing for most people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
right?
there's a real, I don't know, like a sort of fantasy version of what getting a record deal is. We talk to loads of artists and
Yes.
they say their end goal is getting a record deal, as if that is the be all and end all. And it's like, okay, so once you've got that record deal, what happens? And their view is, once I've got the record deal, everything's sorted. I don't need to, it's basically out of my hands and everything's going to be taken care of. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be a millionaire.
Exactly.
And that's just not the case. Like, even look at the people who win like American Idol or the X Factor. They get £1 million recording contracts. Most of them have 2 songs and then disappear.
It's sad, and I know people I've met people that went through the big, talent shows here in the US, and they can't even seem to get a gig at a state fair. They've gone to real estate, they've gone to work at department stores, retail, they've had to go try to figure life out, and man, these are some of the most disappointed people I've ever met.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
the road is sort of littered with artists like this that have bet it all on
Yeah.
this one thing. And actually, what it's about for an artist now is about diversifying your portfolio as a musician.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
having strong social is key. Absolutely, you wanna have strong social, but also, making sure that you're securing stuff in the press, you're getting links, you're building a following like that. You're building following through sort of creative grassroots techniques of building an audience. Yeah, we had an artist that we were working with earlier in the year who had the really interesting idea of getting a bunch of business cards printed with QR codes on, and then just, like, leaving them around places all over wherever they went. And this person got loads and loads of streams off the back of this, like thousands and thousands
Oh,
of
that's
streams
great.
came in because people would be like, "What is this?" And then they'd scan it. It would take them to a landing page saying like, "Hey, you've just found this. Would appreciate if you listen to my music." And now that, their music is doing really well on things like TikTok because people are using
Yeah.
it and posting videos. So it's about just thinking about how can you spread your net, and, working with someone
Yeah.
like us is a really good way of doing that, or doing it all yourself, but, prepare to
Right.
not have very much sleep for the next 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing a lot of artist development as well. I've not really rolled out an official offer, but through the hundreds of people that I've been coaching on their songwriting in our groups and one on one, through Nashville Christian Songwriters, it's just sort of organically risen up that people are asking me to help them with their careers. And because I have been doing this for so long, and I've lived that life, Joe. I don't know if you know me as the NCS guy, but prior to this incarnation, I was a recording artist and worship leader. Stumbled into Nashville in 1983 before you were born, but I still like you, and to take a job that fell through, and I wound up getting into songwriting, and man, it's just been a crazy thing. But what I always really wanted to do was make records. And by just grace, by God's grace, man, I've been able to travel the world and do worship leading, and I've recorded with a couple of large companies, Integrity Music being one of them, and the recordings that I released through there. Now, back in that day, my record shipped at this was 1994. I'm so freaking old, dude, but I eat my veggies and I'm pretty good. But that record shipped at over 100,000
Wow.
units with that label. And then later on, I had another one like in 2001, and it didn't go out at that level, but they were still a pretty happening label,
Mm.
and they are now today. But there was a time back in the 80s, that 80s and even into the early 90s, that the Integrity was shipping over 250,000 units every other
Whoa.
month. They had a subscription
Yeah.
based worship kind of program, and you paid so much a month, and you would get, this was before CDs. Mine came out in CDs, but man, this is like ancient times. But they were king, man. They were selling, 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 and so that established me as a global worship artist. I've been to Africa and a bunch of different places in my ministry, but that was kind of an old paradigm where the label actually could do that. They had that kind of power. And so what I've been doing in coaching the people that are current day is I'm all about platform. It's like, I talk about four things, and this flows right in with what you guys do. What's your mission? Where are your skills? Do you have the skills to write songs that can really compete? Then the production, you've got to have the right kind of production, whether you're doing a demo or a master. And then that engagement piece. And it feels like you and I have such a holistic view of what it takes. And you're coming along, these years later, but I lived that. I lived what it meant to, and I had the help of a label, but this is where we are today. You have more recording, publishing, promotion power in your cell phone than we had with 50 people at the label. It's just
Yeah.
insane. And talk to this for just a moment, because quality control, I got to be a quality control guy with songs. I managed 18 full-time songwriters, and they would bring me their material, and I was the guy that got to decide whether it went on a record or not. And now your artists, the people you're working with, the people I work with, you know, they can put out anything. I could pick up a dictionary and start singing it on a track and put it out, right? And it might go viral, but you know, it's about building a platform. That's my first point, but it's also about quality control and having the long view. And it sounds like that's the way you guys are going at it with the more holistic approach, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think to your first point about the platform thing, I think that's still is totally true. You need to have that, and I think the difference now between then when you're talking about is access that didn't exist then to bigger platforms. And I
The
think
world,
yeah,
yeah, right.
pre-internet, and this is true not just for music, but for so many industries that actually the big players used to be gatekeepers to distribution.
Exactly.
Now that everyone can distribute, well, kind of we've gone the other
Mhm.
way. There's what 40,000 songs added onto Spotify every day, so it's kind of gone the other way, wherein everyone has the platform, and then by extension, almost no one does in a certain way. But it's a kind of different sort of deal.
Exactly.
But because the access now exists, those sort of big companies and big labels have had to massively rethink what their model is and how they actually exist anymore and what purpose they serve.
Exactly.
And you're finding
Right.
that more and more people who have, who work for big labels are splitting off and starting their own sort of more boutique things, because actually the tools that the labels had for 50 years that couldn't be accessed by anyone else can now be accessed by everyone else. And
Exactly.
so really what you've got to be as an artist now is really, really smart to, right, how can I maximize my visibility across the world? What are gonna be the
That's so
best
good.
avenues for me to do that? And what's gonna be a way I can do that without spending loads of money without ever seeing a return?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, ta take us through your new site. You've launched this brand new site. Talk to us about how to interact with that site, man.
Yeah, so we've been working on this site really for the best part of a year now, I think. So COVID was a pretty crazy time for everyone, but for an online recording provider and being one of the only people really who'd been doing that for a while in our sort of form, and being called the online recording studio obviously doesn't hurt when people are searching things on Google. The
Exactly.
last couple of years have been pretty busy and pretty insane, and we've learned so much. We've been really, really lucky to work with some like incredible artists who are just are just yeah, amazing. But I think what we've really done is we've tried to grow the team in the areas that we know can really help our artists, and we've learned so much about what it is that our artists need, how the marketplace has changed drastically over these last couple of years. And so what we've done is we've curated our services now. We sort of trimmed down some of the services in some areas. We've boosted them in other areas. We've big boosts in our PR section and our promotions and our coaching areas. Brought on more producers. But what we've tried to do is what we've learned over the last couple of years specifically, but also over the last 6 years of doing this, is create a kind of, well, I say a one-stop shop, but obviously we'd hope you come back multiple times as many artists do. But it's the fundamental things that you need are listed on this website as an artist. So we've got the production and recording side of things. We'll talk, and the site talks you through how that process works of having your initial consultation and coming up with instrumentation and bouncing ideas back and forth and recording your vocals and being able to book like a live vocal coach who can be there with you on the recording session remotely. That's
Wow.
so in real time you can have a vocal coach or your producer
That's
on
amazing.
video,
Wow.
hearing what you're doing, giving you feedback as if you were there in the room with the producer, but considerably cheaper than if you were actually having to rent out a studio for the day. We also, for people who do production themselves, we offer those mixing and mastering services, and we have different packages there for that kind of thing. But then over onto the sort of the newer sections of the site, and we have a section for our branding and design services. So generally what we look to start with an artist who is wanting to kind of build a brand is we'd put together what we'd call a branding and style guide, which essentially is the core rules for what their brand is going to look and feel like for at least the next 2 or 3 years. And so you'd see color schemes and your color palettes and fonts and stylings, photo editing styles, the tone of voice, the way in which things are presented, so that an artist can have really, really consistent, cohesive, dynamic sort of visuals to everything that they're doing. And this is used in
Mhm.
music videos, lyric videos, promotional assets, everything that they put out to make sure that they look really professional. Then that leads into some of the other things we have, which are like the social media assets for releases. We run ad campaigns for people on Facebook and Instagram. Not yet TikTok, because the spend that you need for TikTok is kind of far outside what most artists are looking to spend. So yeah, anyone who's listening, I would say just don't do TikTok ads yet, because they're really just
Mm.
meant for brands right now. Like big brands, it's too expensive. You won't see a return on it yet. But yeah, so there's all of that sort of stuff. And then that kind of ties to our marketing services. So we have some great PR people in the team, people who've worked with likes of Arctic Monkeys and Burt Bacharach. We've got people who are journalists for publications like Mixmag and Pitchfork. We've got some really, really good people in the team who have links to other journalists, playlist curators. And so we can write up press releases, create press packs for you. And usually what artists do is they bundle a bunch of these things together. And so the site will show you all of these different services. And then you can either book through the site, or you can book in some time with myself or one of the other artist success managers in the team. And really we'll put together a really, really bespoke, specific package for you that is going to build towards your goals, whether that's monetization, whether it's audience building, whether it's touring, whatever it is. We've worked out the formulas of what you need so that we can help you get there.
Wow, that's amazing. Now you got to keep in mind that we're in North America. We don't really use the phrase bespoke.
Oh, right.
So, I mean,
Custom,
uh,
custom made,
custom, tricked out,
tricked out.
you know,
Yeah.
a dandy, right? The Well, that's fantastic. So, your website is the best way to just interact with you, I'm asking, and just begin to get a flavor of what you do. And then there's the contact form to set up some time. How does that
Yeah,
work?
so, onlinerecordingstudio.com is a great way to see everything that we offer, see some examples of some of our artists, listen to some of our before and afters, and look at some testimonial videos. People love the before and afters. That's been the real thing where people can see the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, sorry to interrupt, but I was gonna ask you about that because I was reviewing some of those today, and it sounds like cell phone work tapes and then a master. It was really phenomenal to hear the difference, in those artists. I mean, the tracks rather.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we really wanted to show in the simplest way possible what is possible. 90% of artists send us stuff that they've recorded on their phone to begin with. that's what we get. We get a demo of them with their guitar in their bedroom or in their kitchen, or even, occasionally we get something where someone is quite literally singing in the shower and you can hear the running water behind them. And so that's always interesting. And then, yeah,
At least that's not a video. Hopefully they're not sending video, but
no, not once they've been told not to once. But that means that we kind of we're able to get a really good idea of what an artist wants. And then it just shows after the few weeks of working with your producer what is possible. And we're able to get really, really high quality, industry quality, radio quality stuff that can be sent off to radio stations, can be pitched for sync opportunities. And again, this is something that we can help with, trying to get you placements. It really is, none of it works unless the music sounds really good. And so first and foremost, we need to get your music sounding the best it can. And once we do that, then we can help you promote it. We can help you get it in the right places, get it heard, build you an audience. But the website is the best place to do that. Or equally, follow us on Instagram at The Online Recording Studio. There's a lot of stuff that we put up on there. We love to shout about the artists that we're working with at the moment on there. So if you want to connect with some other artists and hear some great new music as well, that's a really good spot to go. And also we have a Spotify playlist called The Online Recording Studio, which has a bunch of our work on there and some of the artists that we've been lucky enough to work with. So if you wanted to have a listen, that's where you can hear most of our work in one place.
Wow. Timely, awesome service, Joe. Man, congratulations on all the hard work and all the hard work to come. Thank you for providing this. So you guys listening, I want you to go to onlinerecordingstudio.com, reach out to Joe and his team, mention Song Revolution, and I know they're going to treat you right. All right. Joe Wadsworth, man, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, John. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. I hope that you'll jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and check out all the resources there to encourage you in your own songwriting. And if you like what we're doing, why not share this episode out on your socials? You can find the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.